Well, we're less than 48 hours away now from the expected arraignment of former President Trump. As a matter of fact, just a little more than 24 hours away now. His legal team getting ready for his surrender on Tuesday afternoon. Let's bring in Fox 5's chief legal correspondent, Katie Barlow, has been following the case closely. Good morning, Katie. Just start by walking us through what we're going to see tomorrow.
Good morning. Yes, our understanding is this process will begin to play out this evening as former President Trump travels from Florida up to New York to prepare for the formal arraignment tomorrow. So we know that he is facing multiple criminal charges. We learned on Friday from the Associated Press at least one of those is a felony. So tomorrow he will go into court and he will go through the process of being arrested, being booked, and what that looks like behind closed doors. You know, there are lots of reports that he will be fingerprinted. He will go through the mugshot. And then the bulk of the process tomorrow is going before a judge in Manhattan who will read him the charges that he is facing. He has the right for his lawyer to be present there and walk him through those charges. And then he will enter an initial plea of guilty or not guilty.
You know, his attorneys have said they're going to challenge essentially every step of the process. And one of the things that people, we've talked to both Republicans and Democrats this morning about this, they said they fully expect one of the first things to come out will be a motion to dismiss. How does that process play out, and what are the chances of that happening?
I think the chances of that happening are pretty high. I heard, just like you, early reports that his team plans to be aggressive in defending this. He has said from the beginning that he is innocent in this case, and he has denied any wrongdoing, including the underlying conduct that would have led to the initial payment to Stormy Daniels in the first place. So I would expect that his lawyers spent part of the weekend putting together some thoughts on it. Now, we still don't know what the indictment looks like, so they can't put pen to paper exactly yet on a motion to dismiss. But as we've talked about, Steve, some of these charges may be untested legal theories in New York. And so that might be something that his lawyers want to take advantage of. They'll file that with the court pretty quickly, and the judge will have to make some decisions.
So what standing is there for a motion to dismiss to be executed then? You know, what essentially do they have to, would they have, his attorneys have to prove, and who do they have to convince? The judge in this case? And do we know who the judge is at this point?
We do. It's Judge Marchand in New York, at least for now. Now, the attorneys may do a couple of things. One, they may move to dismiss the charges that are pending against him, saying that there's not a basis, there's not probable cause here. But they also may try to change the venue. They may argue that a court in downtown Manhattan is extremely prejudicial to President Trump, and that this should be moved to another court entirely or another judge for a number of reasons. Typically, defense attorneys will try, their best strategy, and sometimes that best strategy is throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks, or it's homing in on a particular argument or two that they believe is their strongest. So the first step will be for all of us, including President Trump's attorneys, to take a look at that indictment, and then they'll work out that strategy. But our understanding is that they will be very aggressive in both moving to dismiss those charges, but potentially even maybe trying to move courts here.
If you change the venue, is that the judge's discretion?
The judge will make the initial decision, and then in our system, it's not always guaranteed that you get an appeal, but you can appeal to the higher court if you think the judge made the wrong decision there. So part of all of this is a long-standing Trump tactic, which is to delay the court process. We've seen it play out in a number of court cases involving President Trump, and making a motion to dismiss, a motion to change venue. All of those things will take time, and he can appeal them up. And there also may be some unique legal challenges at play here, given the nature of his position and how very public it is. Finding a jury of his peers may be more unique and more challenging than with any other criminal defendant in history, although we've certainly had some high-profile ones. Never, of course, an American president.
Last question for you, Katie. You know, President Trump had said at one point he welcomes the perp walk, right? Because this gets more attention for him. He believes it's more sympathy. It riles up his base even more. Whose decision is that if something like that should happen?
Well, you know what? I was talking with some former senior officials with the Secret Service, and Secret Service's job is to really build the protection around the protectee and do what the protectee wants. It'll be a fine line there as to what is ultimately safe for the former president. But my understanding, at least from the Secret Service's perspective, is that they will try to do what he wants.
All right. Thank you, Katie. Always good to talk to you. I know you got a lot of work to do. We'll see you a little bit later this afternoon. Our chief legal correspondent, Katie Barlow. Thanks so very much. Marissa.